What's up everyone, the Game 2K2 here again, and today I continue my review of the Harry Potter franchise with the film adaptation of the HalfBlood Prince. Surprisingly, David Yates would be kept on to direct the HalfBlood Prince, and what would be even more surprising is that he would already be signed on to the Deathly Hallows as well. So obviously there was something that Heyday Films and Warner Brothers really liked about Yates, because to sign him up for the Deathly Hallows before the Half-Blood Prince's release was definitely a bold move from fans' eyes. The Half-Blood Prince would also surprise fans with its release date, marking the first time that a Harry Potter movie was ever delayed to hit theaters. However, unlike most movies, this wasn't because it wasn't finished. In fact, the film was already completely finished and was ready to release when Warner Brothers decided to delay it by 7 months. So what was supposed to be a November of 2008 release turned into a July of 2009 release. While this would anger fans, it definitely worked in the long run to heighten the anticipation for the movie. But was it worth it? Let's find out. The story centers around Harry's 6th year at Hogwarts, and Harry and Dumbledore first go on a mission to get a former Hogwarts teacher, Professor Horace Slughorn, to return to Hogwarts. Slughorn first refuses, but eventually agrees. We then see Snape make an unbreakable vow with Draco Malfoy's mother to help protect him, as the Dark Lord has put Draco on a mission. After seeing Malfoy acting suspiciously in Diagon Alley, Harry believes that Malfoy is a Death Eater. His suspicions heighten when a teammate from his Quidditch team is cursed and was told to deliver a cursed necklace to Dumbledore. In another element of the story, Dumbledore and Harry observe memories that Dumbledore has collected about Voldemort. This leads up to a memory from Slughorn that has been tampered with, and Dumbledore gives Harry a mission to get the memory from Slughorn. Harry eventually does, and it reveals that Voldemort has split his soul into 7 pieces by using a magical spell known as a Horcrux, which keeps him from dying. Harry had already destroyed one, Tom Riddle's diary, in his 2nd year, and Dumbledore has destroyed another. He then takes Harry to a cave where another one is hidden, and despite some difficulty, they actually get it. They then return to Hogwarts and find out that Draco's mission has taken full flight, and Death Eaters are now in Hogwarts. Like the book itself, there's a lot of plot, which always made me laugh because J.K. Rowling put so much plot into the Half-Blood Prince, and yet it's only in the middle of the book series in terms of length. Now, one element I did leave out of that summary is the romance. You have Harry and Ginny falling in love, and then there's a nice little love triangle between Ron, Hermione, and Lavender. David Yates and screenplay writer Steve Kloves do take a lot of liberties with the story, because they said during the development they wanted this to be the calm before the storm leading into the Deathly Hallows, so there's only a little bit of violence and a lot more comedy thrown in. However, my biggest complaint is that the book and movie is called The Half-Blood Prince, and yet the movie barely focuses on that plot. That was another element that I left out of the summary. Harry gets a potions book that was previously owned by someone who called himself the Half-Blood Prince. So he had written notes in the book that helps Harry in potions and also teaches Harry a very dangerous spell. The Half-Blood Prince was the focal point of the book's story, and yet it almost seems like a side plot in the movie. Another problem I have with the movie is the romance. For the most part, it's just on the border of being cliché, but manages to just barely miss doing that. But my problem is that it takes up too much of the story. The serious moments and the comedic romance moments are poorly mixed in some areas. You have Harry and the Weasley family being attacked at the Burrow, and the Weasley house is set on fire, and yet the very next scene cuts to a comedic moment with Ron and Lavender. That really bugged me when watching the movie, because instead of building on that serious moment, they cut back to the comedy, and that just doesn't work. Another element that always seemed to bother me was that for every movie we got to see a Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and the series built on Snape always wanting to teach that class. However, we finally reach the point where he finally becomes the teacher, and yet we don't see him teach at all. It also kind of bugs me that they didn't focus a lot on Dumbledore's death. There's no funeral, and it happens way too fast. But I did like the long scene where the school uses the wands to get rid of the Dark Mark. That was pretty good. But there are elements of the story that I do like. I love the way they extended Malfoy's story. I know some fans would have liked it to remain the mystery that it was in the book, but since Malfoy has been stuck in the comedic relief department for the past few movies, it was nice to see a more serious and darker side of the character for a change. In my opinion, I think his story was told much better in the movie than it was in the book, mainly because we got to see more of it. Also, I love the way they did Dumbledore's memories. The first memory at the orphanage was phenomenal, and the second memory in Slughorn's class was also really well done. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get to see the memory of Voldemort trying to get a teaching job at Hogwarts, but the ones that were in the movie were incredibly loyal to the book and looked awesome in the movie. Now, from a visual standpoint, the movie is beautifully filmed. Yates did a great job with the cinematography, and he really made each shot look its absolute best. With that being said, I have to bring up something that many fans seem to love to bring up, and that's the color scheme of the movie. Fans always complain that the movie has this almost permanent greenish tint to it. I have only one guess for this, but I don't know whether it's fact or not, but I always assumed that Yates was trying to match the colors of the book covers. Like the Order of the Phoenix, the cover of the book was blue, so the dominant color in the movie was blue, and the HalfBlood Prince was green, so the dominant color in the movie is green. I don't know if that's true, but for all we know, it could be. The movie is nowhere near as action-packed as the Order of the Phoenix was, but to be fair, the book wasn't exactly action-packed either. However, they do manage to put in a little bit of action in the movie, and it's pretty well done. Like I said before, Yates is the best action director to come into the series, and it shows here because I love the action that he does manage to put in. My favorite is Bellatrix attacking the burrow. A lot of people complain that the fight scene between the Death Eaters and the Order was left out, but David Yates and Steve Kloves said that they wanted to save the big fight for the Deathly Hallows, which is understandable. The CGI is wonderful in the HalfBlood Prince. It's so smoothly done that you'll have trouble remembering that it's CGI. Then there's one element that I don't really bring up too often, and that's the score for the movie. Nicholas Hooper returned for the HalfBlood Prince, and while I thought the score for the Order of the Phoenix wasn't that spectacular, I love his score for the HalfBlood Prince. When you listen to the score during the movie, it just really brings the movie to life. Instead of sticking to one specific style of music, Hooper changes the style to match whatever scene is on the screen, which worked really well. As far as the acting is concerned, it's still top-notch. Out of all the books in the series, the HalfBlood Prince has the least amount of new characters. The biggest casting decision is Jim Broadbent as Horace Slughorn, and despite Slughorn being even more goofy in the movie than the book, he actually performs the role quite well. Then there's Helen McCrory as Narcissa Malfoy, and she also does quite well with the part. Also, I have to say that Hero Fiennes Tiffin was unbelievably perfect for the role of young Tom Riddle. His performance just really made the first memory the perfect scene. The returning cast is once again great, with the two standouts being Alan Rickman and Michael Gambon. While I was very disappointed that the character of Snape really got reduced in this movie, I love Rickman's performance. Gambon's performance as Dumbledore is perfect in this film. This is the first time since The Prisoner of Azkaban he's really played the character exactly how he was described in the book. I was also very happy to see Bonnie Wright's role as Ginny extended because they really reduced her character's role in the series in the last few movies, so it was nice to see her get a lot more screen time. Overall, it's a pretty mixed bag for me. There are elements that I love and elements that I hate. Again, I really wish the romance didn't take up so much of the story, but I love a lot of the additions that they made. So it's not a terrible movie, but it's definitely not the best in the series. Well, everyone, that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.